So one of the questions we should start with is, why should we rethink the graduate of the future to begin with? What's wrong with the graduates that we've been producing right now? And to some extent, in many schools, the answer is teachers and students across the country are doing a fabulous job teaching and learning, and our schools are terrific in many ways. At the same time, the world is constantly changing, and we ought to be thinking together about the ways that changes outside of the world should reshape the way we think about teaching and learning inside of schools. As I've reflected on this question, I think there are 4 big shifts that are happening around the world that should compel us to think differently about what we do with the time that we have to spend with students inside schools. One of those shifts has to do with the nature of networked learning. I bet almost all the people who are watching this video have something that they're passionate about, that they learn about and teach others about online. In my life, over the last few summers, I've gotten really excited about growing raspberries in my backyard. And there's all kinds of folks who are in USDA, agricultural extension offices and other kinds of gardening forums and things like that, where people share what they're teaching and learning about growing raspberries in their backyard. I'm sure there's something in your life that you're really excited about learning, that you learn not through sort of didactic instruction from some formal teacher, but through a series of networked learning interactions with others. There's all kinds of reasons for us to think about how that kind of learning that we do in the 16 hours a day that we're not in school could be brought into the 8 hours a day and the 180 days a year that students have when they're in school. A second big shift that's happening is in the world of work. Over the last few years, computers and robots and automation have dramatically changed what human beings can do in the labor market and what they can be paid well to do in the labor market. Computers are extremely good at anything that can be broken down into a routine task. Humans are really good at things that are non-routine. 2 of the main domains where humans seem to have what economists would call a comparative advantage over computers are in ill-structured problem solving and in complex communication. So human beings are really good at solving problems that require creativity, where you don't know what information you need at the beginning or even what the outcome will look like at the end. Computers are good at really structured problems. And then other than really routine kinds of conversations, human beings are much better at complex communication, where you have to empathize with someone, where you have to persuade someone, where you have to inform someone. Those are the kinds of jobs in which human beings can continue to get paid a living wage. And our schools should be thinking about how we inculcate in students the kinds of skills that let them do the sorts of things that computers won't be able to be programmed to do for the decades ahead. A third big shift which is happening around the world is for those of our students who we think are headed towards college, which isn't necessarily all of them. There's all kinds of great things to do with one's life. But many of our students are headed towards college, and we should think about how college instruction is changing. Here at MIT, we've become extremely excited about different approaches to project-based learning, different approaches to teaching and learning that get students building, creating, making, getting them out in the field, doing internships, in design labs, creating meaningful performances of understanding. For sure, we still have plenty of courses here at MIT where students take lots of notes and learn lots of figures and do lots of problem sets and those kinds of things. But it's incredibly common for you to be walking through a hallway and walk through a lobby and see robot cars that are racing around the hall, or see poster presentations about new kinds of machines that people have made and so forth. And finally, we're learning much more about the science of learning. We increasingly understand how the brain works. We increasingly understand how we balance the needs for motivation, the excitement that people feel when they get involved in projects that shape their identity, that let them do authentic work. And as we better understand the brain and we better understand how people learn, we should be thinking about how that should be informing our teaching and learning. So those are 4 kinds of shifts that I see about the nature of networked learning, about the nature of the working world, about how teaching and learning at college is changing, and about our understanding of the science of learning, all of which I think are changes that are happening in the larger world that should compel us to think about how we do teaching and learning in our own schools.